Kurie is part video creation and helping you always have that fresh creative. And the other side of it that people just think is so cool is streaming TV. And what that means is a commercial for your property or your community that is showing up on the streaming TV networks that your renters are watching. That could be Hulu, it could be Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. I mean, there are so many platforms, but then your commercials are showing up to renters who are your qualified people that you want to drive to your buildings. Video will help elevate every other part of your marketing funnel, right? It doesn't matter if it's your ads or your website or your YouTube channels. Video will make everything perform better, but now we have generative search, which also video will help you show up in those generative searches a little bit more. And you can distribute video in a lot of different places.
Okay, welcome to the Digible Dudes podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Nicole.
And Nicole, we just had a great conversation with Kristi Fickert, someone that brings a lot of great energy and can just flow, like talk so easily. She's so easy to talk to.
So easy to talk to. I could talk to her forever. She's super knowledgeable. Has been in the space for a while and is part of an exciting new endeavor. So
yeah, she's with Kurie with a K. Website is kurie.us, so like curious. So I really enjoy the branding, and she's a tremendous fit for that brand. So she was at RealLink previously, and then just recently moved over to Kurie, and is the perfect person to help lead the charge there.
yeah, our conversation was super informative. We talked a lot about, top of the funnel. Kurie also does streaming TV and connected TV solutions. And so while they're a video platform, also some top of funnel marketing and branding, and talked a lot about kind of the industry at large and the barriers that we see in multifamily to taking a more holistic approach. But then when you do so, like the benefits that can have to overall lift the brand, lift your marketing performance. So I thought that was super helpful to really kind of see it from her perspective, being someone who is kind of in it in this new endeavor and seeing it through this like new lens on how she can help impact the industry.
Yeah, she has so much video experience, and has, I don't know, just has a good way about making it relatable. Because a lot of times in the past, I've witnessed folks talk about video, and it's hard for me to grasp, or it'll be just hard to understand, like, how will this apply to an apartment? Where does this fit into my strategy? Because she even brings it up. You've got your ILS, you've got your Google ads. Like, where does this fit into that? And she had great examples of how it could fit into everything from like helping a lease up property to even helping like market an asset before sale, or even like how Kurie themselves uses video to help gain new customers. So it's a really fun conversation.
Super
Kristi's
fun.
just great. All right, you guys will enjoy. Okay, we're here with Kristi. Kristi, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Kristi Fickert. I'm the Senior Vice President of Growth and Marketing with Kurie, which is a brand new brand in multifamily, but also otherwise known as, some people call me the video girl.
We just had the AI guy.
Multifamily.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Justin?
Yeah,
Yes.
Justin. Yeah.
Well, he and I do the AI exchange together too. So I guess maybe I should introduce myself as that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we run that peer group.
Yeah, he did give us a little background on that, so that was super interesting.
Yeah.
I had not heard of it before. So
Oh,
it's exciting.
well,
Yeah.
you guys will have to join a call.
Yeah.
You'd have a lot to add, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It sounds very, what I love about it is like very growth mindset, just sharing example problems and solutions, like very collaboratively across companies. And it's just about the humans,
Yes.
like trying to help each other get better.
It is. We were so curious about AI. I mean, most of us are. And I knew a little bit of something about it that I would talk to Justin and he'd say, that's a great idea. I haven't tried that. And then he would do the same. And we got to thinking, well, we know some things, but we don't know it all. Or we'd done things and experimented and things went really wrong. And we thought, gosh, if we could save someone else from spending all this time for something that's not going to have a good outcome, then, we could save them a little bit on that too.
Totally. I love that, especially like cross companies, like industry focused. At Digible, our CTO just launched what he's calling the DOG, the Digible AI Working Group.
Okay.
And so
cool.
it's more so internal, like cross departmental volunteers from different segments of the business kind of say, okay, how are you using AI in your day-to-day job? Can you share that? And then can we broadcast that out at the company level? But I love that you all are taking that to the industry.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
super cool.
And we get people who come into those meetings, people just pop in and out. They'll come to to one and then they maybe miss the next two. They're busy or their schedule doesn't align. And so they just pop in and out, and you can come in and you can be a fly on the wall. Sometimes you are a little intimidated or you're just starting with AI, or it could be anything that you're trying to do in the industry. And you can come in and just listen and see what everyone else is doing. Or sometimes they have really cool things to add. They weren't a guest that we asked to be on there. I remember one of the very first calls, someone was building their own GPT and none of us had done that yet. And we were, show us your ways, can you do that? And so we did. We ended up walking through a whole workshop where they were telling us how they built their GPT. And it was such a practical application that every single person in this industry, whether you are on site or in marketing or you're a supplier partner, everyone could have used this GPT that he built.
That's awesome.
Great.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Kurie for those that don't know. So Kurie with a K.
Kurie with a K. Kristi with Kurie.
Yeah, it works well. But yeah, for those that aren't familiar yet, as you said, it's a new brand. What is Kurie?
Sure. Well, let me tell you where that name was inspired from, because some people don't know how to pronounce it. But if you think about Marie Curie, the scientist, and she was always innovating things and, trying to come up with new things. And she won some prizes for this back in the day. And so that's what Kurie is. Kurie is pushing the envelope with multifamily and getting us thinking a little bit about getting out of that sea of sameness. We don't want to just run the same ILS ads. We're all running Google ads, but we've been doing that for forever, literally. So what else could we be doing? So Kurie is two things. It's really a video first advertising strategy. And we've heard in these sessions this week at AIM about video. We've known this for a while that we need video, but video will help elevate every other part of your marketing funnel, right? It doesn't matter if it's your ads on an iOS or your Google ads or your website or your YouTube channels. Video will make everything perform better. But now we have generative search, which is also, video will help you show up in those generative searches a little bit more, and you can distribute video in a lot of different places. So Kurie does a few things. So one, we help you always have fresh, creative content. I don't know about you all. I'm sure you are a small, lean team too, like we are, but it's really hard to create your own content at scale, whether it's just a social post or then, my goodness, if you have to try to create a video, it takes you a couple of hours to do one. And the marketers in our industry are typically trying to do that times 50 properties or 100 properties or 200. I mean, and then look at like a Graystar or RPM, and it could be in the hundreds, even more than that. So it's hard for them to create that kind of content at scale that is built for the top of the funnel. This isn't your middle of the funnel video content that your on-site teams are creating or fun TikToks that they're doing, but it's something that's polished and that you can put out there to people who aren't familiar with your brand yet. You can put your best foot forward. So Kurie is part video creation and helping you always have that fresh creative. And the other side of it that people just think is so cool is streaming TV. And what that means is a commercial. It's a commercial for your property or your community that is showing up on the streaming TV networks that your renters are watching. That could be Hulu, it could be Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. I mean, there are so many platforms, but then your commercials are showing up to renters who are your qualified people that you want to drive to your buildings.
Yeah. That's incredible. I think the video piece of being able to streamline it and make it super fast. I think it's one thing for us, at least, like to get it right during the onboarding of a property. It's another thing to say, okay, we're 3 months in. How are we updating the video creative? Or we have this on-site event. Can we use and repurpose that material? And so I just think being able to not only create it at scale, but to make sure it's more real time and more updated and fresh is so important.
Well, yes, because if you look at, there are a lot of studies on this, but ad fatigue tends to set in at about the 30-day mark. And it doesn't even have to be your video ads. This could be print ads that you're doing. A lot of people are doing mobile ads, people are looking at on phones or apps or even TikTok ads. But if you just keep doing that same ad or using that same content or that same photo, after about 30 days, they start glossing over it. And yesterday, actually, I think it was the Google or Yardi session. It might have been Zillow. Gosh, they're all running together. But there was a lot of great data thrown out yesterday. And one of them was showing that a lot of people start looking at about 4 months out is when they start looking for an apartment. And then a big majority of the people are about that 90-day mark. So 3 months before their move time. And that means if you're running that same ad, they're seeing it for 3 months straight. And then think about how many times that ad is being served to them. They just start glossing over it. So you really do need to be switching it out often, but we just don't have the manpower and resources to do that in the industry.
Totally.
Yeah, I think most folks have sort of fallen into a set it and forget it strategy when it comes to creative, because they don't have the budget to do creative changes or yeah, just unexpected expenses. It's like, oh, didn't we handle that during the lease up process? Like, and I had video with like renderings. Like, am I really gonna do like a full shoot now? So I think that's really interesting about what you guys are doing, but it's more like a creative subscription. So could you talk more about that?
And I had someone ask me about that today. She said, well, do you come out and shoot this video content? Well, no, not it's mostly AI driven. So AI gets us about 80% of the way there. But if you've tried to create anything with AI, it's not perfect. It is evolving, it's getting better. But you might have 11 fingers on your person in your video, or like that part isn't perfected just yet. So it's AI gets us about 80% of the way there. The humans on our team, we have about 17 people, 16, 17 people dedicated. This is all they do is they're polishing up those videos. They get it the other 20% of the way there. And the subscription model, what that is, it starts at 12 videos a year, so one video per month. So you're basically getting one new video or one new commercial, if you want to refer to it that way, for your property every single month. And that you don't have to you're not using those all at once, but you have this content then in your library. Right now I'm going to use video number 1, but I have something clear through, let's say, September of this year, depending on our seasonality is about to change in this industry. I might have a new property that goes up next to me and I'm trying to combat that. So there are all different things that you can use a video subscription to overcome.
Makes total sense. I mean, we had talked to Scott at Jonah about this years ago, but on their website platform, they had made it so that you can have images change out based on like it's summer versus winter, because people are more interested in the pool, obviously in the summer, not in the winter. And so you would want the same with video assets.
Yeah. So that's what this marketer today was asking me about. And she said, well, but we don't have a lot of content. She was asking, do we come out and shoot it? And I was explaining, no, that we use AI for the majority of that. But she said, so we'll use a variety of your own images that you already have, take things from your website. If you've got some video, if you've got B-roll video, if you've got drone footage, we can certainly work with that, and that's great. Makes it even better. But she said, well, what if we only have so many pictures of our pool? And so if we want to highlight our pool in one of these commercials, how do you guys change that out if we're just showing the same thing? And I was explaining, it's not just the images, but it's your voiceover. It's how you're talking about and positioning that specific amenity, and some cool things that you can do with AI. Justin and I have done this on the AI Exchange, where we had someone who had just a rendering of a pool. It was a new lease up, a new construction building, and they had this image of the pool, and we just used AI to make the water in the pool move. So now it looks like a video. It looks like they have this other piece of content.
Super cool.
And no one came out there to do that. So you can really zhuzh up some things, is what Justin likes to say, and make it look a little different. And I also told her, you can use one shot of your pool, and maybe this is your commercial that you're running in the winter, and your talk track is all about, hey, we know the weather's bad now, but this is what you have to look forward to when spring rolls around in Minnesota or somewhere that's really heavy winters, right? And then in the summer, you're running another ad and you can still highlight your pool, but what you're talking about in the summer is, all of the activities and events you have at your pool, more the lifestyle around it versus, hey, this is what picture yourself here in July kind of thing. So you can use the same image, but you position it and talk about it in a different way.
I want you to zhuzh up my Minneapolis pool with a skating rink for December.
Justin and I we'll come on the AI Exchange, and we can probably, it's fun to see what it spits out though, because what we learned with that is, it's a lot about the prompting and what you're asking it to do. Because in one of these images, I wish I had it to show people right now, but the first go round, we said, we want you to make this pool look like people are having fun and actually swimming in it. And it had a person in the pool, and they're like, it looks more like they're drowning than swimming. It was horrible. So we had to dial it back.
Yeah.
You iterate constantly with it, but it's really cool that it can just zhuzh it up a little bit. Especially for people who don't have big budgets for videography or photography.
I was just going to say that. I think the barrier to entry for video has come way down. I think there's this big misconception of like, oh, it needs to be professionally shot, or I need to send out a videographer. even for us, we did just a case study on TikTok, and we found that when the property manager just on their phone did a tour of the
Yes.
unit, that performed better than the professional videos.
Yes.
Because people want to
They want
see
real
it, they
and
wanna
authentic.
feel it. Yes. And so we talk to clients about that all the time, where it's like, hey, it could be images stitched together with maybe transitions, maybe some overlays, and then just have the property manager, the
Yes.
team, the on-site team go out and shoot a video on their phone. Like
Yes.
technology is so great these days with the iPhone plus AI. It's like you can make that into something super meaningful.
Yes. And we found, I mean, I come from Reeling, so I have a pretty lengthy video background, and we had so much data. And that is something we found too. Like that kind of video is really good for organic,
Yes.
you know, where
Yeah.
if you are top of funnel, you're paying for advertising, you know, if you look at the Super Bowl commercials, like some of those are really fun, but they're very professionally produced. Whereas if you're looking for something a little more organic, or you're just a tad further down the funnel, then people really do expect that raw, unfiltered look for that. And that's where, you know, Relink is a great video tool too. And we actually have clients who take B-roll from Relink, which is more of a video virtual touring platform, but they'll have some B-roll video of a unit walkthrough, let's say, and we'll use that in their commercial, but we're showing other things too. And you've got your really professional voiceover. And so you're kind of marrying the two together, which I think is brilliant.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about like, I don't know, like, I'm curious about the team building aspect of this. Like, meaning, for you guys at Kurie, as you launch a new brand and new company, obviously you've got some resources from the sister company, but I'm just curious about how you think about, the team building, because you have so much experience. So that I'm just fascinated.
Do you mean internal team building, like with our like culture kind of
Yeah,
team
like
building?
as you start a new endeavor, there's a lot that goes into like building the right culture and
Yeah.
Galvanizing around the mission.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I mean, a lot of that starts with hiring, right? I can train people on the hard skills. I can teach anyone to do back end marketing. I can teach them how to read Google Analytics or work with those, but I can't teach people one, how to be nice humans, and how to be collaborative. Either you have that intrinsically or not. And you know, our parent company is Intrinsic Digital, so it's kind of implied that, you know, you've got to intrinsically have some good in your belly that you put out to the world, kind of thing. I think the cool thing about launching something, and I would be curious to hear how this is for you when you launch just a new piece of something that you all are doing. That kind of keeps the team excited too. It's something new to promote or to add on to. So what we see too is our sister brand is AppGeo, apartment geofencing, and people know us and love us for that. And so some of those people are like, hey, we saw you're doing this Kurie thing. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
But then we have a lot of people who, for whatever reason, don't know about AppGeo, but they're hearing about Kurie. And so they're coming in through that Kurie platform. So internally with a team, whether it's a sales team or a client success team, it kind of gives them something, I call it a shiny object, some cool new shiny thing to be proud of. It's like a new baby that you're birthing, and, you know, you're getting it all, trying to grow it up or glow it up, whatever you want to say, kind of thing. But the team is intrinsically good humans. You have to hire for that, first of all, and you can teach them to do anything else. But there's also varied skill sets. There are some people like me who come from a deep multifamily background, and so I can speak the language, I know the technology stack. But other people, you know, if everyone were just like me, that wouldn't work either, because sometimes I'm a little too much for people. So sometimes, you know, we've got people that came from other industries that have really great experience that I don't have. And I think that's the other secret sauce, is that you've got to have a good blend of that, and then when you bring that all together, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, your point about you were saying about the excitement for the energy of the current team. Yeah, we struggled. We had positive experiences with that and also negative experience. So positive would be when we started, we had our Fiona brand and we had the Digible brand. And Fiona had more the relationship you're talking about, where people would maybe be interested by Fiona, but then come in and say like, I don't have a tech platform budget for like marketing analytics, so I'm gonna buy Digible though because now I believe in you, the people.
Yeah.
And then we had other people come into Digible, and then they're like, but I need a technology. It's like, I'm going to use yours. But where we got in trouble with that was as we added more service lines under Digible, it was exciting for the internal team to have new things to talk about. But at some point, you start to have so many SKUs that it can be very problematic from the customer's not even sure how to think of you.
How it fits together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
suffered in particular. I'll give an example, but like email, we do these email campaigns that are based on people that you don't already have in your database, and that has done really well over the years. But then we have some clients that only think of us about email, and then they get surprised when they learn that we do lead gen services.
Yeah.
And then we have other people that are like, "Why didn't I know that?" My owner came to me and said, "I got to buy this email thing from you. How come? How dare you didn't tell me about it?"
Yeah.
So yeah, just having those amount of SKUs started to be problematic over time, and I'd say we'd still kind of working through that. Like, when do you make it a SKU? When do you not? Like, how do you? You don't want to overwhelm the customer with as if
Yes.
like you have a trench coat with a bunch of watches to pick out, right?
I
So,
love that analogy. That's perfect. It does happen though. And I'll say too, something that's been, we've really had to be thoughtful about internally is the education of our team internally and helping them understand the different product lines, how they're different. I mean, we're not a meeting heavy company, but we had really regular meetings and town halls really to address that. We had even, Matthew, our founder, creates quick 5-10 minute videos and he sends those out every Monday, just kind of advising the team about where we are with this new product or this new launch and the why behind it. I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan.
Yeah.
So the why, and you also have to understand that it's a lot of like how on-site teams I think feel today when, they get this tech fatigue and people are always rolling out all this new technology for them and they feel overwhelmed. But I mentioned this in my session yesterday. There was a Swift Bunny survey and about 66% of people in the industry, they're not afraid of new technology. We always think they're afraid of it and they're so fatigued by it. It's that they either don't understand it or they don't get enough training, or for me personally, I feel like I don't have time to learn something new. So then they start pushing back and you get this, pushback, which is natural when they're overwhelmed. But then you're always going to have the people who are not going to embrace new things.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing that we look for in hiring. Do they have that more of entrepreneurial mindset, or they're open to new things? They're more of what is Justin calls it techno optimist of
Yeah.
Yeah.
instead of pushing back or always seeing the negative of these new things, it's like, well, what doors can this unlock for us?
Yeah. How could this help me?
Yeah. And it can be two things at once. Two things can be true at once too, right? Like it can be exciting and it can be overwhelming.
Totally. I think one thing you hit on is the training piece. I think that resonates with us so much when we talk about like different SKUs or how do you truly be the expert in everything. I think about it from a new hire or new employee training perspective. It's like, yes, when you come into a Digible or a Kurie, you're probably getting a very comprehensive overview. Here are all the products. And then once you're in it, you have hands-on, right? You're like, I am hands-on. I am now the true expert in these platforms. And our challenge was you kind of had to be working with a property management client that bought those things for you to truly understand.
Yes.
And so now what we're trying to solve is, okay, how can we come back around and maybe you've been in your role for 2 years and you've never ran an email
Touched it.
campaign,
Yes.
and how can you feel confident that when a client asks you about it, you have the knowledge to speak to it in depth.
Right. And that confidence, I'll say, when there's a lack of confidence, that doesn't make the employee feel good. And it definitely doesn't serve the customer in the best way. And we've all felt that way. I felt that way initially coming into Kurie because they were a little further along with the brand when I came in and we were still ready. It was pre-launch, but they had built a lot of it before I got here. And so I had this little catch-up period where I just didn't feel like, gosh, I'm not sure if I know this, or I'm not sure if I'm telling someone the right thing about it. So it's real, but I'll say once you immerse yourself into it and you know it forward and backward and you could do it in your sleep, then you feel this confidence comes about from you, whether it's internally with your team or if it's just, when your team's out in the market talking to clients, it serves us all better.
Yeah, your exhaustion, I think, meaning that you said like people, it's almost when they get overwhelmed or exhausted, they can just shut down.
Yes.
And the challenge is, how do you like follow your own curiosity so that you're energized by what you're learning, but also not overdo it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people sort of dive, with 2 feet first, and then they almost burn themselves out. And they're like, well, I experimented with GPT, whatever, like 6 months ago, and I kind of overdosed. And now, like, you just don't have the same interest in it anymore, and then you start to fall behind. So, it's more about, I'd say, pacing yourself and being like, this is a lifelong journey.
That's a great point. Yeah. It really is. And it's so easy to burn out like that. And you have to give your brain, like after this conference, my brain is going to need a break. It's amazing. It's so good, but it's also overstimulation. And so you kind of need that decompression to figure out, okay, what am I prioritizing when I get back? I learned all of these things, or I heard about all of these new products, but where am I going to start when I get back, and just tackle those things in a very methodical kind of way.
Yeah, I think the decompression, we had not done a good job of that in the past. Nicole and I, like even last night, we were invited to a dinner and we're like, you know what, we're just gonna decompress.
Yes,
let
so
it
many
settle.
people do that. That is the trend. I'm telling you, I would love to know. I would love to see a survey across all of the people who plan parties and events at AIM to see what was your RSVP list like, and then how many actually showed up to your event because they're all tired at the end of the day and they change their mind.
Yeah, that data would be fascinating. And just the trend, I think, this is kind of off topic, but just more of like societal trend around wellness, right?
Yes.
Like I think about the conferences we went to 10 years ago. It was like, oh, you were out until 3 a.m. and like then you were expected to get up at 8 a.m. and like go to do all the things. And now it's more acceptable to say, hey, I'm burnt out. I'm going to skip this event. I'm going to go to my room for an hour and recharge. I'll see you at this.
And that's amazing that people can, it's like kind of like everyone can do what works best for them.
Yeah,
and there's no judgment. And, kind of talking about that brain fatigue, for example, one of the things that I like about Kurie, so the streaming TV side of that, where we're running commercials and ads on streaming TV, one of the reasons I love that so much and I'm so bought into it is because if you think about our renters and how they're shopping for apartments, most of the time in this industry, we don't really start marketing to them until they've opened that search bar on the Google browser. Then we start showing our Google ads. Then they find this on the iOS. Then they get to our website. But a lot of people are noodling on that in the back of their mind before they ever open that search bar. I think about my 20-year-old son right now, and he would have moved out last week if he could have, if he had the finances and means to do that. He's not even probably searched this on Google yet, apartments in Cincinnati or whatnot. But I know he's thinking about it. And so imagine if he's watching and streaming his shows, and every now and then this ad comes up for this apartment community or this brand in the market. Now, when he goes to look for an apartment, he's probably going to do a branded search and search that brand in Cincinnati or something. But the other thing I like about it is if they are already searching and they're a little bit further down the funnel, they're searching, they've been on Google, they've been on the ILSs, that is exhausting. You're seeing a lot of options. They continue to put other options in front of you. Even when you think you've narrowed down your choices, everyone's targeting everyone. But when you're at home and now you're on your couch and it's 8:30 at night and you're watching your favorite show, you've got your dog, you've got your popcorn, you've got your blanket, and you're not distracted. You're not on your computer. You're not on your phone. You're watching the biggest screen that you own. And now this Unskippable commercial comes on for this one apartment community. And there's no noise around that. There's no distraction around that. There aren't 4 other communities being served up to you at the same time. So that's what I think is really cool. But it kind of speaks to how people are on overwhelm right now. And we hear it, we see it when people walk into a leasing office, they're on information overload. And so this is kind of a way to get your name out there without anyone else encroaching on your space or your ad space, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, the automotive industry, I think, has a lot of similarities to multifamily, but they market very differently, and they will start planning 12 months or more in advance for a car sale.
Yes.
And multifamily, it's harder because each community is unique versus like if you're trying to just advertise Chevrolet or something, and you're like, I want to get the brand affiliation in there for 18 months from now when that person's buying. Budgets for a multifamily have been increasing in the last number of years, so more and more upper funnel is getting leveraged. I wouldn't say, though, I have personally experienced the owner being super excited about doing like upper funnel stuff. Like they'll be like, oh, I want to run a Spotify ad or I want to do some connected TV. But then when they get the results, they're like, so how many leases did I get from running that commercial?
There's a huge educational aspect here that we have to talk about.
Yeah, totally.
And like we were talking about this at a roundtable this morning too, is for years they have they want us to get from point A to Z and not hit anything in between, right? And that's just not how marketing works. And if you look at any other industry, they don't measure it the way that we're being asked to measure it in multifamily. At the very top of the funnel, that is awareness. And so you measure that very differently. You don't measure, did that person walk in, McDonald's doesn't say, did they see my ad on the Super Bowl and then they came in and bought a Big Mac? That is not how McDonald's is measuring that. So why are we being asked to measure it that way? But I really think it goes back to education. A lot of owners, investors, higher ups, they're not marketing specialists. They need to know enough about it, but we're going to have the marketing people in the industry are going to have to really help them wrap their minds around that and understand what that does for us for brand awareness. But a good example of that in our industry is, and I love that connected TV and streaming TV is available now, because when I was a marketer years ago, I wanted radio and TV ads, and we could not afford the media buys. There's no way. Property doesn't have a budget like that. But it's opened up a lot more inventory, which has brought that price down, and it makes it so affordable. It's cheaper than running Google ads. I don't think you should not be doing Google, but it's just another way to diversify your ads so you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. But I think that it's creating that awareness for your communities to where you can still show if you have you're benchmarking your website traffic, for example. You start running a streaming TV campaign, you should start to see your numbers go up a little bit. But you're not going to connect it to, they came in and signed a lease.
Yeah, totally.
One of the examples, though, is Bizzuto is doing a very broad streaming TV campaign in their Atlanta market. They don't have a big footprint there. They are, it's nothing like what they have in like the DC market. And so they're running a Bizzuto branded campaign on TVs in Atlanta, and they're just putting the Bizzuto name out there. Now, Bizzuto is branded that way. Like a lot of companies aren't branding big corporate like that, but they're a good example of where they are going more broad with streaming TV, because they just want people, when they're thinking about moving somewhere in Atlanta, they want them to go find a Bizzuto property. So that's something else that, you can go more broad on. Now you're also going to hit some people who might not be your target market, but it's another avenue that you can take. So the cool thing is you can be really dialed in with it, and you can target specific renters in specific buildings that are a great demographic for you to pull from. Or if you want to go more broad, you can do something like what they're doing in Atlanta.
Totally. I think you nailed it. I think you have to look at it with a more holistic lens. And I think so often, companies that we work with get stuck in the trap of like, we look at this line item and these results. It's like, let's zoom out. What's your total marketing budget? What is your occupancy?
Yes.
What's the leasing velocity in this area? Let's have a more holistic conversation. And that makes it easier to introduce some of these topper funnel products, where if you're just like, hey, I heard about this thing and it's buzzworthy, yes, maybe that starts the conversation, but let's also talk about how it fits into the full strategy.
And then, so for example, if someone's running streaming TV or geofencing or paid ads, whatever they might be doing, then what's the next step after that? Like, what are we doing at the next phase of the funnel for them? And this is how every other B2B industry markets, but in multifamily, we're a little disconnected with that. I think we've gotten better over the years, but it's still not nearly like what other industries do.
Totally.